ancient name with regard to this site. And the next one to the north here, Babadra, is the largest of these sites, all dating to the early Bronze period, the time of Abraham. This is the largest one, so we would expect that would be the most famous one. And of course that would be Sodom. And Sodom and Gomorrah are always mentioned as a pair. And also the other two, Admah and Zeboim, are also mentioned as a pair. And so one pair should be north, one pair should be south. And so if we can fix Numirah as Gomorrah and Babadra as Sodom, then of course the other two would be Admah and Zeboim. In fact, they're named in order. In is it Genesis 10? I forget. There's some place where it's talking about the border of Canaan. They're all named in order, north to south. And so that is my proposal for identifying these particular ruins with the biblical names. Here's the ruins at Safi. It was investigated in 1973. Now, I should back up a little bit. In the mid-60s, actually, early Bronze Age pottery began showing up on the antiquities market in Amman, Jordan. And these were complete vessels, and they were showing up, first a few, then more, and then more. Pretty soon there's a flood of these early bronze vessels. So archaeologists became concerned because obviously somebody was illegally excavating this material, and they traced the source of the pottery to a cemetery, large cemetery at Babadra, the place I propose is Sodom. And so archaeologists went there and began excavating in the mid-1960s. So they excavated the ruins there at Babadra. Then the archaeologist in charge of that work was tragically drowned in 1969 off the coast of Cyprus, got caught in an undertow. And so the work fell to two of his graduate students, Walter Rast and Thomas Schaub, because the work had not been fully published. They felt that they had to explain this huge cemetery that was there at the site of Babadra because it seemed just too big for the little town that was there. So in the summer of 1973, they undertook a surface survey of this whole region to see if there were perhaps other towns from that time period that might be using that cemetery. So they set out and explored the area, and it was in that survey that they found these four additional sites to the south, Numirah, Safi, Fifi, Kanazir. And here's what they found at Safi. They found some fortress ruins here and some tombs. Unfortunately, after 1973, I don't know exactly when, but shortly after the survey and before the archaeologists could go back there to excavate, a town was built on the site. There it is. It's a little town, and it's for the workers who work in this potash industry, getting the minerals out of the waters of the Dead Sea. And so that's where they live, not too far from the plant and so on. But it's smack dab on top of the early bronze city or town or fortress that was there. And so it's not possible to excavate. And then the other thing that happened was that the locals found out about the burials, the tombs here, and they began illegally excavating these tombs. And I don't know if you can see it from where you are, but this whole area is just pockmarked where the local people have come and illegally excavated all of those tombs, got all the pottery and whatever else was in those burials, and have sold it illegally on the antiquities market. So unfortunately, Zoar is not accessible to archaeologists, and that's a shame. Now there is some work going on there. When I was there in 2000, we saw some legitimate excavation work going on in the cemetery. And these are slab tombs, and they date to the early Bronze IV period, which would be just after the destruction of the cities of the plain, would date actually to the time when Lot was living at Zoar. Of course, he's up in his cave. You know, he wasn't down here near the town. But they come from that time period. On the right, you can kind of see inside how they had built the tomb out of just big slabs of stone. But that's the only archaeological work going on there. Now, I mentioned the sanctuary of St. Lot in the Madaba mosaic map. Here it is. It's in the cliff just above Safi, just above ancient Zoar. And here's the apse of the church. And on the left side here is the cave where tradition says St. Lot lived. And on the right, I'm standing there in front of the entrance into that cave. And when the archaeologists excavated this, just not too many years ago in the 1990s, they found some pottery there that actually goes back to the time of Abraham. So who knows? Maybe that was where Lot lived, and maybe that was some of the pottery that was used by him and his daughters. There's no way to prove that, of course, but this church and monastery goes back to the Byzantine period, and certainly they believe that this was the site. And as far as I know, there's no other caves up there, but who knows? So that, again, helps us to locate where Zoar was. Now, we're going to go up to Babadra, the northernmost site, located right here on the edge of this wadi, called the Wadi Kerak. Wadi is a dry riverbed most of the year, but in the wintertime it will be flowing from the winter rains. And so, right on the edge of that wadi, overlooking the plain, the valley below, there was a city built. Not a large place, but heavily fortified. The red shows the outline of the city wall. The green areas show where the archaeologists have excavated, and they have excavated there from the 60s on into the 70s, I think even a little bit into the 80s. The findings there have been very significant. First of all, some geologists have worked there along with the archaeologists, and they have determined that when the city was destroyed, and it was destroyed by fire, there was a tremendous upheaval of the Earth's surface. I forget exactly what they said, 100-meter differential or something. It's a huge displacement of the Earth, indicating a very violent earthquake took place at the time the city was destroyed. We're going to look at the gateway over here, another gateway over to the northeast. I think I have a picture taken here. There's a little sanctuary there, or some kind of occult installation. Some views from the site today. It's very dry, and it just seems like a place God has judged. There's a little bit of greenery. Some amount of moisture comes out of that wadi out into the valley.